All right, we're back online. Here we are. So,
It's good seeing you again, my friend.
likewise, likewise. Yeah, it's been a
And
while.
you never left the forest, which is amazing.
I never left the witch. Oh, the
The
forest.
forest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I never leave the forest. The forest keeps changing, but I never leave the
But
forest.
you never leave it.
It's true. Yes.
So thank you for doing this.
No, thank you for visiting. It's so great. So, what's been going on? Tell me a little bit about what I may have missed. I don't think I missed much. I was
No,
tracking.
tonight they're gonna have in fact the big hitters are gonna be on MSNBC.
Mhm.
Um it's like whatever. I'm not watching the debate. I don't know if you are. I absolutely could care less.
No, no.
And if Trump was on there, I may have watched, but what did we say? What did I say back when the Roe versus Wade?
Hmm.
When the Supreme Court did that, I said they've awoken the sleeping giant.
Hmm.
I said you can count on Democrats winning now.
Yeah,
And nobody
yeah.
believed us. Nobody believed us. You kept seeing it in the chart. Sterling saw it. Several people saw it. So I
Hmm.
said, you watch. And that's what happened last night in Virginia, in Ohio.
Yeah,
So
it's
it was
very
a
true.
beautiful thing. Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
true, and it's uh, these kinds of results are a lot more indicative than polls because when people vote, they vote, and polls sometimes they tell you something that may or may not be related. For example, it's pretty easy to see why Biden's polls are really bad right now. It's because of the Israeli situation.
Right.
I read how, for instance, in Michigan, a lot of the people that are supporting Palestine are upset with him. Well, that's a temporary situation.
Yeah. But what do you do? Vote for Trump?
Well, yeah, of course, yeah. No, that's the thing, is the comparison. But when you're taking snapshots like that, all of a sudden you get these polls, and people think, oh my God, this guy's going down the tubes. But then they go to actually vote in an election where something matters, and what do? As you said, they voted overwhelmingly. I mean, and they're doing it in red states. Kentucky, that's pretty crazy when you see
I know.
Kentucky.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Can you? But right now, it's too late to try to throw someone else in there. I'm telling you, you've got to have Biden. And Biden will hold on. Let me tell you, right now, I can see him holding on. But uh, what else did I want to ask you? Okay, so that happened. And this whole New York thing, he's guilty of sin and he's going to get hit hard by that judge.
yeah, that.
He's going to
Funny
get
that.
hit hard. So go ahead and tell us a little look see it, Trump.
Well, one thing that'll tell you that I didn't make a video on this, but today I knew that because Ivanka was testifying, and she's got. Well, first of all, I don't have her birth time. All I know is her birthday, so it's a bit limited. But you can see that she does have pressure on her chart, some pressure. On what I know, not nearly as much as her father, though. And the curious thing about today is that just today, as she went to testify, the moon the whole day was in a really bad spot for him. So he had to be really uncomfortable. Now, I don't know exactly what she said, but I can say
Was he there?
100%.
Was he there in the
I don't
inside?
know if he was, but no matter where he was, where the moon was very unfavorable. And I'm dead sure that he didn't like it. And it may be that she may have said one or two things that were not favorable to him, but regardless, right? He would
Right.
not have been happy. And what you say is correct, yeah, that there's no way out of this one because the judge already passed judgment, and now the only thing is how much he'll assign in damages. But I can't imagine it's going to be a good thing for him.
So my friend Dan, you know Dan,
Hmm.
he wants to know 2024 for Biden. You've been saying that for a while.
Yeah,
Experts say that Tuesday's election was great for D's, but it doesn't take away from Biden's challenges. So that's basically what you just talked about.
well, Biden. You may realize this, right? Biden. This is based on his birth time, and so then you get a really accurate chart. And the thing is, Biden's 2023, the whole year from March to now gets fairly poisoned because where Saturn is, it's putting a lot of pressure, and especially right now because now Saturn's stationed, so there's even more pressure, and mostly right now because of the Israeli situation, that whole thing. But what I said, and I think I said this to you, and I may have put a video up. It's that next year, as the Saturn moves forward, it changes, and when we get into the spring, as things are getting really rough, for the Orange Menace, they're getting much easier for Biden because then the Saturn aligns in a better way. Now, I don't know what that's going to be, but I know that it's much better than now, 100%. So
Okay.
we just have to be patient, around.
Remember a while ago, you said something was coming up with Biden. You weren't sure what it was, but it seemed kind of rough. I bet you it was this.
Yeah, no, but well, that's the thing. I mean, the planets find a way to irritate, and the thing with Biden is he's Sagittarius rising. So as soon as that's your rising sign, and Saturn is putting pressure, and you're the president of the U.S., Sagittarius is the foreign affairs sign. So it's a classic thing that something that is happening somewhere else. Also in his chart, the Saturn is in the relationship house, so those are partners. That's what Israel is. It's a perfect fit, but not in a good way because, as you can see, there's a tremendous amount of conflict around it, and that's why I think his numbers have dropped in the last
Okay.
while. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they worry about, but what are you gonna do? You're gonna vote for Trump?
No,
You
well,
get
that's the
up to
thing.
that thing and you go to say no to Biden, even if you vote for somebody that you know won't win, that's a plus for Trump.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, he hasn't even started to attack Trump directly, which he should if he's smart. And I wouldn't be surprised if it starts fairly soon because Trump keeps saying things that make no sense, such as that, that he's in better shape than Biden, that he's smarter than Biden. I mean, give me a break. He's practically demented. He goes on the stage and he says things that make no sense. He forgets things. He thinks he's running
That's
against
where he's
Obama.
at. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's lots of room there to
He's
attack.
telling
But
the judge, I was too busy negotiating with North Korea and all
yeah,
this. And
right.
they're saying, you weren't even president when this happened.
And then he said, "Oh yeah, right." I know it's pretty remarkable. He's in court. I mean, talk about anyway. Okay, you can't really believe it, that
Well,
that
I tell you, I have a lot of comfort in knowing what you're saying. And a lot of things you say, even if I see it, it's like it does seem to pan out.
well,
Now, listen, one of my predictions, I said they will not allow Donald Trump to be taken off the ballot for insurrection. Just now on the news, I can't remember what news, might have been New York Times. I think Minnesota. Where is it? I just saw it. Minnesota Supreme Court blocks bid to remove Trump from state GOP primary ballot. I knew a state. I wasn't sure which state.
well, it makes sense though because the problem is that he hasn't been charged with insurrection the way Smith did it. He charged the fact that he's stopping people from getting their vote counted and from the obstruction of an official proceeding.
But he hasn't been found guilty yet.
Well, and he wasn't even charged with insurrection. So because he didn't want to complicate things, because that's a little harder to prove. So
Okay.
so basically that's a problem because if you're saying he committed insurrection, well, the courts can say that hasn't been shown, legally speaking.
Right.
So
Yeah. Because
that would make
I'm
sense.
glad they did it, but I think down the road he'll never be able to run again if he lives that long. 13 Ghosts told me, let Andre know Tanya S. Chutkin was born July 5th, 1962.
I've looked at her chart, and her chart,
Okay.
her
I'll show you.
chart, just the day though, that very day. I didn't. There's no time for her, but
Right.
she's definitely not backing down on Trump. That's not happening. The way I see it, she wants the trial in March. Do you see any obstacle
She's
to
going to
that?
get the jury going in February.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're trying and trying and trying. Trump's thing is, they throw spaghetti at the wall with ridiculous requests to see if they stick, and I just don't see it. She's of a mind to get it to happen because
He'll forward. He'll go all the way up to the Supreme Court, but they're going to turn their back on him.
right, exactly. So Chutkin is not, she's no pushover. I don't know about the other one, the one in Aline Cannon. She's trying to do everything to slow things down. Don't know. That one is one that I'm not sure.
I see her being hit by Jack Smith saying, okay, enough. And then the higher court say, yeah, you got to go.
So do you feel like, do you get a sense that they're going to process that trial in 2024 as well, or does it get pushed?
It goes longer.
It
It's
goes
not going to
longer?
happen before he's not going to win president and he will be found guilty.
Right.
But let me tell you, she's showing a rear. He promised her, this is my hit. He promised her what he's thinking and what he told her. And I picked this up as clear as day. You know, I think I'll chalk Roberts into stepping down and I'll give you Chief Justice. That's what I saw.
That's good. That's good, though. I'm
And
not
so
I'm-
she's over there biting at the bit. She wants to make sure her guy gets his presidency. He ain't gonna win.
I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because that's pretty funny.
But it was the weirdest hit, but I gotta go with it because, you know, years ago when I was reading for people, I saw the Pentagon people sitting at a table. I saw the table and they were talking about do everything you can to make sure that man cannot set off a nuke.
Yeah.
He's a clear and present danger. They knew back then.
Oh, that's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. It's
And
just
here's some good news. Who was the guy that in the DOJ that was trying to get the military to come out for Trump?
Jeff Clark
Yes.
or Clark,
That
the guy
he's
that
up, the law board is looking to terminate his law license.
But are you surprised? I mean,
No.
you know, quite frankly, with these people already, the other guy took a plea, Chesbro. So you know, he's actually a real lawyer because Clark is an environmental lawyer and he's kind of demented. He's the one that thought that he was saying that the election was controlled through the thermostats. You know, I mean, isn't that amazing? How would you even do that? That's what he said. That something about satellites or there was something
And you
that
know,
happened.
Trump didn't care as long as you said it was rigged.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, not surprised about that, nor am I surprised they're putting a lot of pressure on Jenna Ellis, another one that you know pled guilty. And you know, same idea. These people will lose their license or worse if they don't back down because you know now the feds are moving in. So yeah.
You know, can I tell you something? I really feel strongly that we might have 7, if that actually go to trial.
Of that group?
Of the group that Georgia's doing.
So you mean that beyond the 7, they all plead? Is that the idea?
Yeah,
Oh, I
that's
see.
what my hit was.
Well, then-
FYI, you guys can tell me later. Girl, you was wrong.
Well,
Anyway.
that's the thing, though. If, that would indicate more people threatening the other people because every single person that pleads has to testify truthfully, or they could end up in jail and lose their, you know, their.
So much is going to hit him. He's not going to
immunity.
have a chance. Somebody wrote, Ursula, she said, do you have the birth info for Elena Kaba?
I don't, but if someone has it, please send it to me and I'll take a look. This is the
Okay.
one. This is the crazy woman on his legal team, right?
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
that is always pursed lips.
Yeah.
She's sitting there and her lips are always.
She's the one now. You know, I had this thought. Tell me what you think of this, because you know the whole thing about how he was all upset that he wasn't getting a jury trial, and then people said, well, it's because she didn't check, you know, didn't do the check mark.
Dr. Mark, check it
Right.
off.
But could it be though? Is it possible? Do you feel like maybe they did it on purpose because Trump and his team, they might have known that if they had a jury, he couldn't do all this talking and yapping. The only way he can talk like that at the judge and say those things is if there is no jury. Had there been a jury, he would have said, stop, and he would have told the jury, everything he just said is garbage, don't listen to that. But because there's no jury, he gets to say, oh, they're out to get me and blah, blah, blah. So I wonder if that was done on purpose.
I don't think so, but it
No.
makes total sense. I see what you're saying, and I will tell you something. At the end, when they let him yap, he ended up convicting himself.
Oh, well, of course, yeah. That's every time, you know. I mean, they got him going, and then they said to him something about the properties, and he admitted that he had looked at the papers and so forth. So now the judge, the way he would rule is he'd say, well, you wasted a lot of energy saying all kinds of crazy things, but you did say you looked at the papers. And, you know, this argument where they say, well, it wasn't us, it was the accountants. Yeah, but the accountants work with what you give them. So
Exactly.
if you give them,
Exactly.
you know, phony Excel sheets, they just, you know, they process that. So it's a crazy argument.
Yeah.
Totally crazy.
So, what is it? What is Ginny Thomas' chart? Have you taken a look? See coming up for the next year?
It's under pressure. I'm actually really surprised that nothing has happened to her. You know, it's a little bit mystifying.
Define. Tell me.
Well-
What Saturn is laying on something?
What I'm not looking at the chart right now, but I remember looking at it and seeing that all the way into next year there's pressure, and so there's lots of room there for something to go wrong, basically, and at the worst possible time if it happens in election season, right?
But between you and me and the thousands of peoples, I'm going to tell you something. With the guys that gave him Thomas all that money,
Mm-hmm.
with the fact that Republicans are losing left and right thanks to them turning over Roe versus Wade, which infuriates them that they're blaming the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court basically was paid to give them what they want. And now, and the fact that these airheads don't get it, they've woken the sleeping giant. Like we said years ago, I said, this is going to bite them. And then you know what? So I can't help, because she feels reactive to me more so than Thomas.
Well,
Thomas, are you okay? Did you?
yeah, I'm just looking at it now. I'm looking at it now, and Jimmy Thomas, the pressure is strongest between now and about March or so.
Okay.
This whole swath. So you'd probably say her odds improve if she can get to the spring without anything going wrong. Then they improve, but the Saturn is there. This is like her chart in that way. The degrees are very similar to MTG's. She's also not doing well, and neither is Matt Gaetz. Both of those people, the way however it shakes out in the house, it won't be to their liking, you know, because they were trying to, you know, do their thing type thing. But the Saturn is on them. Yeah.
My prediction was when Jack Smith gets this done and dusted with Trump, right after that, he starts filing against MTG and all the people, maybe even Jenny Thomas. Because
Yeah.
I feel because he didn't want to start that until they got Trump, and then they'll do the rest.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, these are the people that MTG and Matt Gaetz were asking for pardons, you know, in regard to January 6th. And why would you ask for a pardon?
Exactly.
Pretty easy question.
Exactly.
I suspected they had done something. So, and if they ask for a pardon, and I know about it, and Jack Smith knows about it too.
So have you taken a look-see at that Douglas, the new man in town, the one that has no bank records, at least in his name, and has a 14-year-old son that they look after for each other on their porn usage?
Wait, who is this now?
The new Speaker of the House.
Oh, you mean Mike Johnson?
Oh, I thought it was I think of Michael Douglas. Okay,
Yeah.
Mike Johnson.
It's supposed to be the most common name in America type thing. Yeah, I did look at him, and actually, the thing about his chart is that, well, first of all, once again, working without a time. But what I noticed about his chart is that accepting the time, it's actually pretty good, and yet he's finding a way to, you know, completely do it so that he's getting a lot of pushback. So this is why, remember that you had said you got a hit that he would go to the center, or that he might, you know, be a little bit more in the middle. Maybe he's going to get pushed that way, you know, as time passes.
Like he has to in order to make things happen.
Right. So that could possibly be why the chart doesn't have a whole ton of pressure. There's some pressure there, but not on the level of, say, Trump or, some, or even
Yeah.
MTG and so forth, or another one that is totally in the thick of it is McCarthy. It's why he had to quit, right? That one is, you could see it from long before that he was due for a big crash. But in Johnson's, you don't see this thing that is really glaring. Now, it could be, though, that it's related to the birth time. That's possible, in which case, then, in a way, you don't need the astrology. What are the odds that this is going to work when, as you said a few minutes ago, Roe v. Wade, this is the sleeping giant. What is this guy doing? He's playing to the complete opposite of that. He's talking about total abortion bans, insanity, the kind of thing that the country's not moving in that direction. I mean, it should tell him when Kentucky and Kansas and places like that, Ohio too, that should tell you, don't go that way. That's a third rail. Don't touch it. They just insist, on continuing.
That's what I don't get. That's why I thought Jenny Thomas is going cray, because she thinks they're blaming the Supreme Court when they got paid to do that. She's pointing her fingers elsewhere, but this will take them down. And is there any comparable Republican that's saying to everybody, dudes, we need to revisit this?
Yeah. Well, and does it feel to you like they're going to shut it down again?
Yeah.
Because we're getting close to that point, and it's.
And let me tell you something. If you shut it down, well, we've got men and women on naval ships over in near Israel. It's pretty much over for the Republicans.
Well, yeah, not surprising.
They might do an extension, but I just see back and forth because you got the cray-crays in there.
Yeah, no, it is really bad. I mean, this is the thing about the people they pick. Whichever way they go, they irritate the other faction. So if you put a person that is more on the normal side or more, middle of the road, then the wackos don't want to vote. And if you pick someone like this guy, who they all agreed on, but he's really damaging the New York people, because those people won in Biden districts and they have no hope. If this guy's talking nuts like this, they're all going to be thrown out in the next election. And so they don't want to do that because they don't want to cooperate, because it's their job on the line. So that's the thing. The country is divided, but the Republican Party is really divided within itself, and that's a big problem for them.
And you know what? That Virginia taking over wasn't that beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I think it was 54 or 57 Republicans, 47 Democrats. Now it's 50 some odd Democrats. They are in charge now.
Yeah, and by the way, now that one is a case of a chart. Glenn Youngkin, the governor, that one, no time of birth, just day of birth, and yet you can see it. It's really clear that he's under a lot of pressure. So now the talking is that he was going to have this big victory and then propel him into some presidential run. And now apparently that's not on the table.
And McConnell loved him too. McConnell thought, and then Trump put out a thing about, Trump doesn't like McConnell, but he was saying, yeah, he's a true Republican and I'm looking forward to working with him.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, this is the thing that, Joe Scarborough is a really astute ex-politician, now a commentator, and he kept repeating, and he repeated it again today, that you can talk all you like about polls, you can talk all you like about Trump, but Trump, other than 2016, when he lost the popular vote and just eked it in there by a few thousand votes, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, they keep losing. They win a few here and there, but most of them they lose, and they lose in places they should be winning. When you see a mayoral race in a red state, that's not supposed to go to the Democrats. And it keeps happening because when people go to vote, they're saying, no, we don't like this. So, and especially when Trump says, I endorse someone, like he endorsed the guy in Kentucky and he lost, right?
Yeah.
It's the Kerry Lake effect. As soon as Trump blesses you, instead of Jesus, you get
lose. But
he
does not hear or see that. He thinks he's still king for a day. He thinks he's top notch.
Yeah.
But behind closed door, he probably throws some ketchup.
Yeah. Apparently, today I heard that the Midas Touch people said that he's really angry with one of his lawyers because he's blaming him for the fact that they're setting up the I think it's the Alvin Bragg trial in March. I mean, this guy is going to be up to his eyeballs in courts. He won't be able to get out of the court, in the
I
spring.
love it.
We-
I
you
love
know,
it. I
but
love it.
and this is the part where the astrology is really, reflective because Saturn going to the new year, it just moves toward him, and then around the solstice, it's in his face in a major way. Not to mention that there are other aspects in there that are really threatening to his health. So
Yeah.
it's just not good, what he's trying to do in the face of all these charges.
And did you I wanted to ask you about Zelensky. Did you, because they feel so isolated, nobody's paying attention to him.
I think with Zelensky that it's exactly that he's in a lull, but Zelensky's chart was the worst part of it was the up to the spring of 23, up to the spring of this year, right? And now it's a little stuck. My feeling is it'll return. They'll come back and they'll fund that war and it'll get back on track. That's how I sense it, particularly when I look at, Putin is trying to hang on. But remember,
Yeah.
we said in prior talks that Putin's problem is in 2025, the Saturn switching to Aries is really bad for him because he has a lot of Libra planets, right? And so that would be a major opposition. And that's his plan. He's trying to basically, burn the West up, wait until they give up. But I don't think they're going to give up, the U.S. included. So it's a matter of waiting.
Right. And we got to, unfortunately, these idiots in Congress that think we're not going to, we love Putin. But
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm remembering something. I believe because there's a time for so Aquarius, but I think he's Gemini rising, Zelensky, I believe. And so, okay, that's another marker. So,
What?
well, Gemini rising, 2024 is a great year for Zelensky, just like it's very good for Kamala Harris. And that's another person who, if you hear the common thought around it, oh, she's in the background, oh, she's not having any effect, and so forth. Well, that may be true, but next year is a really high profile year. When you're running for an important post, Jupiter on the ascendant is the best thing that can happen to you. That's how Obama was elected in 08, Clinton in 92. And for Zelensky, if you're in a situation like this, once again, Jupiter going through that period is really good. So it's, and yet, interestingly, the Jupiter in Taurus right now isn't as good because he's in Aquarius. I'm pretty sure, I'm remembering his chart. He's in Aquarius with
I
Gemini
think he
rising.
is.
Right. So once Jupiter switches signs, the situation improves for him a whole lot, which would suggest, I mean, you could read it in a different way, but he's in a war, so
Yeah.
that's how I
So
would
speaking of
interpret.
wars, I don't know what's happening here, my friend, but everybody's asking if you could take a look. See, I'm sure you've looked at Netanyahu.
Well, Netanyahu is pretty obviously, you don't need the astrology to tell you that he's in a really dicey place because they're blaming him, right? And for good reason, because you could say what he was trying to do, it's known. I mean, we read this in the news in different places that the military was very demoralized and they were saying to him, we're not going to follow you. And so once you start doing that, you'll drop the ball, which is what happened. And all these people died, right?
And
so
he
now,
was mad at them. So it was this.
Exactly. So Netanyahu, he's got, this is the Pluto cycle. That does not end, the pressure doesn't end until the end of next year. That's a long time for that planet to be there. So I would not be one bit surprised if they got rid of him. What do you feel?
I have felt for a while now that he would be taken out. He could be taken out legally and escorted to the door or taken out by something else.
Yeah, well, it
but
fits.
I feel taken out.
It
I
fits. Yeah.
don't see him running like I used to see Putin running, like trying to escape, but I see him being taken out. And he's really getting on Biden's nerves.
Yes.
I heard a story, you may have too. I don't know if it was on Joe or what, that all the way back to Clinton, somebody worked and knew him because he was somebody that worked all the way back with Clinton. He says it doesn't matter what you say to him, Netanyahu does not follow any advice.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, it's Netanyahu is to the right. He's a
Yeah,
right wing thinker. It's why he found, you know, a connection to Trump because Trump
yeah. But
is
when
the
he
same way.
announced that Biden won, that was it for Trump.
Yeah, exactly. So, bottom line, he's very late. Netanyahu is very late in Libra, and that's where Pluto is hammering away. And this scenario that he's in the midst of has the feel of a major Pluto square transit. His problem is that it extends a little too long, and based on what he's done, yeah, it's very threatening. He could easily get tossed out. Yeah.
So, uh, what I'm feeling, I don't know if you took a look at the whole Palestine thing, but I feel that Biden is putting the brakes on. That's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling he's telling Netanyahu, you got to give some sort of mercy here. See, someone wrote me and told me, Hamas is making all the people, all the Palestinians, stand over the tunnels and they use them as pawns. I said, fair enough, but then does Israel kill the children and the women just to get to them beneath? They're going to have to, and apparently they are marching now. They're in there now. But I just feel that Biden really wants a break, and you better give us a break and let us get this stuff in, because already Israel accidentally bombed a truck that was bringing supplies and hurt the driver. Didn't kill him, thank God. But I understand the absolute terror that they went through. And of course, like us with 9/11, what you want to do is destroy. But I see that if they don't give some sort of, just give something, Biden may say, well, you know what? We're not playing.
I know it's not the position is not popular. What it's too controversial what he's doing. So
Well, you're hurting women and children.
yeah, exactly. Just looking at where Saturn is, because Saturn, the
Okay.
station. See, right now, the problem for this whole situation for Biden, for everyone, is the Saturn station, just like the Pluto station last month. A lot of people were talking a lot about eclipses, and there were two eclipses in October, both of which were very hard on Israel, the country's chart. But without the Pluto station, those eclipses wouldn't have done that. So the stations are really threatening when the heavy planets, kick in. And by the way, the Pluto station was also the crazy thing in the House where they had to do multiple votes and so forth, and finally they arrive at someone. Now, early November, Saturn station, not good for Biden. But as the month proceeds, and especially into next month, it does get easier, right?
Okay.
The situation improves. So again, patience, but if it's really hard to watch, to see that. Of course, it's not good for what Hamas did is horrible, but if you start killing children, you're doing the same thing they were doing. Women, children, whoever, it's totally nuts, and
But
that'll put a lot
they
of pressure on
turned
the
off
U.S.
the water and the electricity, and nobody can get help or supplies. It's it's allow people to be able to, if they're being forced to stay there by Hamas, then you're going to have to militarily just go in instead of just blowing everything up. Go in and clear it out. But I see Biden very, very, I could be wrong, you guys, but I see Biden very irritated with Netanyahu. The way Netanyahu came up to him, did you see that at the airport? He was
No.
like a little kid. I didn't realize he was so short. He went up to him like a little kid and oh, Papa, Papa, can
Biden?
you hear me? Anyway, and he was holding him, and Biden was like, get off of me, shoot. But I see, this is what my guides told me. There will be two states, the Palestinian state and there'll be the Israeli state. And there will be peace. But unfortunately, this craziness needed to happen because this has been building and building. And I have a friend who's famous who was in Israel, and she met the sidekick of Netanyahu, and she even said, tell him to stop treating the Palestinians so bad. So she gave that message 2 years ago or whatever. So if it was obvious to people visiting Israel, then it was going on for some time.
It's true. Yeah, no, there's no question that they've been leaning to the right, and I mean, you can't approve what Hamas did. That's just sheer insanity.
Well, they had a little book that's straight out of Russia.
Yeah, no,
they were doing the things Russia said to do.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that Israel, the way they've treated the settlements, was really, in a way, bringing this on. Because when you basically, mistreat people and you keep expanding the territory, and this was Netanyahu's attitude, and so there's no way that it can work if they don't have a little bit of a compromise, right?
And then when this happened, this was his ticket to say, destroy it. Destroy it. Right. But what's happening is in this destruction, he's killing the innocent. And so now they have to come back. But he was like, yeah, destroy it. That was his wish.
Yeah. Well, the astrology is not favorable, especially in the near term. I mean, this is the thing. You see, like, the whole thing is always in flux. And in a way, if Netanyahu can last until the spring, then his odds improve of hanging on, right? Then he has another big bump, even if he survives to the spring, then the end of the year in 24 is another really threatening point where he could be thrown out again and he would disappear then. So he's not in the clear until the following year. But the immediate, if you think November, December, January, February, easily he could be thrown out based on where the situation is. There's no question.
But one of the biggest shocks I had in my whole life, I remember about being in school, about World War II and the horrible things that happened to the Jews. I have no clue. I don't understand it. I have no clue the prejudices held against the Jewish people. The things that have happened in the United States, and my friend said it's like a slow burn, and then something like this happens, boom. But I just don't understand it. These people, the plight that they have gone through, and then to keep going through it.
Yeah, and actually that's the thing, that these situations are incredibly complicated because the Palestinians have a good case and the Jews have a good case. And if the Palestinians say, well, we don't want to negotiate, we want to throw Israel in the sea, well, then that's not going to work. That'll never, you have to be able to negotiate or there's no hope, right? So both sides. But yeah, you're totally right, because I mean, if you watch I've seen plenty of World War II footage, and it's crazy. What happened to them is crazy, and you can't fault them for arming themselves to the teeth and fighting back, because
and holding on to whatever little thing they have, the little piece of land they have, they hold on with a vengeance, because they were everything was taken away. They're still fighting. There's a lot of times you'll look in the paper, somebody got an art piece back from Denmark that was stolen by the Nazis, and it was their grandfather's piece, and they can prove that it belonged to him. It's just terrible.
It's true. And this is the thing, that these topics, they're really incendiary. People really want to take sides and say, well, this side is correct and not, it's, look at the whole thing and you realize that you have two sides that are behaving really poorly for, in a way, valid reasons, but this is why it's such a terrible conflict, right? You can't really say it's all Israel's fault or it's all Hamas' fault. There are points on both sides, and until they can come to some kind of
They will. There will be
compromise.
two separate states. I saw it as clear as day. And that's unfortunate, but it has to do this. I mean, we fought a civil war with thousands and thousands of deaths, but, and we almost stopped. I heard Lincoln was near, you know what, maybe we should just stop this. But we got those nations, those states that succeeded, we got them back on track, and we saved our democracy. And here's that orange head trying to start it all over again.
Yeah, no, this is the thing too, that we're in that period of where it's the Pluto cycle in this case, especially the Pluto cycle moving its way out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. And if you look at the state of democracies throughout the world, there are all kinds of places where there is pressure that wasn't there before, including Israel before this. They were very divided. They couldn't agree on anything, and they were trying to make changes, but there were people demonstrating on the streets because they were really upset. Now, the latest is in Spain, where I was just visiting, recently. They're in this jam because, the country is very divided, and they have to make a pact with the separatists in Catalonia in order to get it to happen, and people are really upset because it means you're condoning something. Then you have France with Marie Le Pen waiting in the background. It's really difficult right now. Democracies are really divided, including the US. But my sense of this is, as Pluto moves toward Aquarius and then gets in Aquarius solidly, this starts to go the other way, because Aquarius...
You said this before.
Yeah, it's not something... Now, if this were happening in 2010, then I would be really worried, because I'd be looking at all these years with Pluto, and then you're thinking, oh my God, we're going to have fascist regimes everywhere. It's fading. That's the way I see it.
Always said 2025. You're going to start seeing things.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have to be patient, and if you want another interesting marker, my namesake, this astrologer that in 2011, his name was Andre-AstrologyAlert. And in 2011, because this guy used to study these patterns, and so he looked at that kind of astrology. He was not that interested in personal astrology. He wanted to do the astrology of nations and the astrology of big events. And he said in 2011, there's going to be a pandemic in 2020. That's what happened, right? But he also said the crisis of the 2020s really gets much, much better in 2026. Right?
Wow.
That's kind of cool, because and he gave a reason. He said the planets then line up in sextiles and trines, which is how astrology works. When you cluster too many planets in one place, like in 2020, you get a big problem. But as we go toward the middle of the decade, things start to smooth out. He was good at what he did.
We're in the middle of November. We only got a month and a half left in the year.
Yeah.
We're almost in 24.
That's true. Although
probably 24 is the beginning of working towards that 25, 26.
Oh, well, of course. But okay, having said that, okay, let's be fair. We should tell everybody, before we get to 26, put on your seatbelt, because 24, I think 24 is going to be like being on a roller coaster that,
Well, actually, you saw good, but it's not until we vote in November, and that's almost the end of 24. So we got some other things now.
Yeah, and I don't see how. My sense of this is that the 25 period. Remember, the GOP is comprised of, in the end, they're just a bunch of sore losers. They don't like losing, and then they make up excuses and they make up theories and so forth. Basically, they don't like losing. And I can't imagine they're going to be happy. This is the way they play. Like, there's a woman that came out about the Bashir's. He won that election in Kentucky, and he won by, 6 points or he won well, easily. And she said, "Oh, this doesn't make sense. How could it be?" She's got this thing again, no evidence, just throw things out there to create doubt about how could this be. It's kind of like Trump's argument. How could I lose to a person like Biden? Because he's better than you, because you're a crazy idiot. That's why you lost fair and square. But he's never going to admit it. So they just say, well, it couldn't be true. And if you expect them to lose and then be happy about it, think again, because I don't think they will be. And so then that could mean some unrest in 2025 and some problems, let's say, right? But again, we have to be patient.
We're going to get through it.
Yeah.
We're going to get through it.
Yes, of course, of course. No
Wow,
question.
time flew by.
Yeah, it always does when you and I talk. And
Yeah,
any
we
other,
we enjoyed
and
it.
any other, do you have any other big insights you've picked up in the last while?
Well, I'm gonna have to do a video. People wrote me too, but I definitely pick up that the Supreme Court's gonna get rocked, let me tell you.
Mm.
I'm definitely, my ears were really ringing last night, so we probably got a good sized earthquake coming up. I can't tell you where, but when my ears ring, I picked up the one in Japan, the huge one with the tsunami, with the kind of ringing I had last night. What else?
As long as it's not here, and because I'm definitely in a
It's
seismic
not
area.
there. I can feel it. It's not there where you are.
Good, good. I'm glad.
It's more likely to be here because I've been getting that sense of being off balance.
Mm.
What else? But the thing is, you know, unlike Afghanistan, etc., when they get a 6 point something, I mean, their places are built of stone. It just collapsed, you know. These houses will be fine.
They withstand it better.
What else did I pick? I pick up that the Republicans are on the phone talking and talking about what they can do. The Christian whatever really want to keep abortion, you know, on the ballot. Sarah Huckabee's in trouble too, just FYI.
Yeah,
She's in huge trouble.
it doesn't surprise me one bit. I mean, she is, she's even worse than her father, in my
Yeah,
opinion. You know,
but she's got that attitude like Trump. Do you remember when Trump became president and he made his guy go out there and lie and say, and they even got rid of the video? We had the biggest crowd ever.
I know. With Trump, everything is about crowds.
It's about thighs. Yeah.
and it's so crazy. I mean, if you see the footage of the Second World War, now the master of crowds was Hitler. He would get these huge crowds. You should be asking yourself, where did that end up? I mean, like I wouldn't mind having a big crowd clapping for me, but not if it ends the way it ended for him. I mean, Trump is like he thinks, well, I can do these crazy things, get the crowds, and not end in a bad place. No, it doesn't work like
No.
that.
And
No.
you know what? That January 6th, he would loved it. He loved they
Oh,
brought
of
machine
course.
guns and he loved it. And he was hoping that would happen again, and it hasn't. Nobody shows up, not even in New York. No
No,
crowds are showing up.
no,
He
and
keeps calling out for it.
that's right. And I don't know if you saw the filing that Jack Smith made. He really, really, really wrote it up. He wrote exactly what Trump is trying to do. I thought it was like reading a brilliant article. So you can expect that in court, he's going to make the case and he's going to say things like, why were you sitting there for 3 hours? What was that about? What were you
Yeah.
thinking? What would it have taken for you to pick up the phone and say, get out of there? 3 hours later, you say, okay, you can leave, but we love you. Does that
Yeah.
seem like,
And then he told McCarthy, oh, well, some people must care more about me or something. It was all about him.
Yeah, no, he told McCarthy that they're more upset about the election than you are. Well, they were upset about the election, but they were upset about the election because you told them to be upset about the election. It's
I
like you're
will
going
say
around in
this.
circles.
I will say this. I do not see a big outburst based on anything that Trump gets in trouble for. I
No,
do not see it again like what happened on January 6th.
no.
When this judge hits him with the fine, he's going to pitch a fit and talk junk. But at the end of the day, I see people talking amongst themselves, but I don't see a big to do. And then when he gets hit again for the January 6th with Jack Smith and the other one, you were saying,
Oh,
there's another
the
one.
yeah, the one in March, yeah, the one with
I
Kevin
see
Bragg.
him screaming and crying, but nobody's coming. People will talk on his thing. Oh, dude, that's right. These people are awful. But I don't see any big to do.
No, yeah, and that makes a lot of sense to me. What do you see as with the Supreme Court? You know how there's that guns that people that have been abusive to their spouses, and they're actually, if you can believe it, they're trying to let them keep their guns, and the Supreme Court is going to, pass judgment on that.
I see them coming to a sense. I think they're going to say no. If you committed an criminal action, you do not have, or you have a restraining order.
You can't keep a gun.
I know with restraining orders, at least in California, if you have guns, you have to turn them in. in California. And so I don't know where they're not turning him in. But how many times have you turned on the news and it's some guy's killed his wife, even the kids, or killed the attorney just because they get mad about a divorce?
Right.
They
Well,
hate, the judge was sniped because the guy didn't like what he went up on a parking garage and shot him through the window.
well, let's hope that they act with some common
I
sense
think
because
they'll actually be smart. I don't see people going, can you believe it? And let me tell you one of the reasons why. Because they're being watched so hard and everybody's waiting to say, you guys are worthless. So, because even though they did what they were paid to do with Roe versus Wade, energetically, they're scared. They're nervous. That's what I got.
well, I tell you what, if whoever paid them, if you think someone paid or got favors for Roe v. Wade, that was not a good political move because that set off a total firestorm. And the weird part is you can almost see this thing now where one thing is a national, law for everybody, but if not, it seems like the states are chipping away one by one, and they're, holding ballot initiatives. Apparently now they're going to try it in South Carolina using the same method as in Ohio. So, in a way,
It's all going to be gone.
yeah, exactly, because that ship has left the port. It's amazing to me that they try to do these things. It's so crazy. So, anyways, all right. Well, it's been
All right, my
great.
friend. It's
It's been
wonderful
great.
talking to you.
I look forward to the next one. Bye, everyone.